Hey, what's up everybody? It is Dream, and today I'm making a quick guide video showing you guys the quickest ways and the most efficient ways to farm the new Sacred 4 weapons and the new Sacred armor pieces. These are the new de facto best in slot weapons and armor for every single class, and were added this last Wednesday with patch 1.3 when you gain access to Chapter 1 of Bestower of Fame. So you need to have completed the Master of All storyline along with the prologue to Bestower of Fame. Won't be going over any story spoilers in this video, so you don't have to worry about that. However, I do recommend that you go finish that before farming anyway, because of the amount of chests and NPCs in which you will get farm mats or just whole pieces off of during. Alright, with that out of the way, let's jump right into armor. So the armor is just a flat upgrade from Tyrant, which was just a flat upgrade from Fafnir and Innocent. It has the same grade as Tyrant, but just has a few more single digits in the physical defense and elemental defense departments. The general rule of thumb is that you make about 4 of every single piece, but honestly this set is the first one I actually tried to go for that with because of just how easy it is to get the mats and how quick the battles are. And so if you're going for that goal as well, on screen you can see how many of each of the 4 regular mob mats you will need to complete 4 of every single hat and 4 of every single type of armor. The first item, dire wolf furs, can only be found in the upper levels of the new dungeon, and they drop from the beast type enemies found throughout that you can see pictured above. The next mat is rare lizard bones, which can be found from the brigand type enemies found all throughout the dungeon, but I recommend farming for in the upper levels. Next are holy stones, which are dropped from the bandit type enemies also found throughout the whole dungeon, but again I recommend farming on the upper levels. And finally, we have ice tree branches, which you need the least of, and are comically the easiest one to get, found on only the lower levels by the insect type enemy. Now, the reason why I recommend farming most of these in the upper levels is solely because the beast NPC spawns are a little bit more rare than the insect spawns are in the lower levels. In the lower levels, almost every single battle, one of your units is replaced by an insect, whereas in the upper levels, it is not the case. Next, let's talk about why I said that I finally went for 4 of each of these items in this patch, and why they're so quick and easy to me. Every single one of the mobs that we farm here is weak to light, and if you guys know about a little character named Odette, she is powerful enough to be able to one-shot them all by herself using max boost. Having Odette on your roster makes farming these mats take an hour and a half compared to about 3 hours without her. I slapped my King Chomper vest onto her for the added speed and surrounded her by slower units, so that way she would guarantee go first every single time, one-shotting all of the enemies regardless of how many spawned or which ones spawned. And honestly, I get about 3 battles a minute just using the auto run feature to go from the furthest points on the biggest maps back and forth. Now, if you don't have Odette, it's not the end of the world. There are multiple pairs of units that you can use and make them go first in your roster so that they will double up their AoEs and end up wiping the enemies. This only ends up taking a little bit longer. The biggest problem with this is that usually these units have smaller SP pools than Odette does, meaning that you're going to be making more trips back to the inn than you would if you had her. Also, to speed this up just a little bit, there is a flame to restore your HP and SP in the lower level. So if you're farming down there already, it's a quick grab and a lot faster than going back to the inn and having to walk all the way back down to the lower levels again. Now let's move on to our new best in slot weapon, the Sacred series. To make the base Sacred versions of each of the weapons, you will need to use the same mats from the armor, and they are listed on screen right now. You will need 34 dire wolf furs, 37 rare lizard bones, 34 holy stones, and 31 ice tree branches to make one of each kind of weapon. I'm not going to go back over which mobs drop which mats and all that kind of stuff. That's back in the armor section if you skipped to here, so I recommend going back and watching that if you want that information. Now, unlike armor, this is just step 1. We have to gather these to get the base versions of each of the weapons, some of which we get for free through NPCs and through chests. However, it's recommended, again, general rule of thumb, you probably want 2 of each of these. That way, you know, in case you're bringing 2 of the same class to a fight, which happens pretty regularly in stuff like Arena, and having a bunch of multiple Sacred 3s will help you work up to your BT battles, which you will need to upgrade them to 4s. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. First, we need to upgrade them to 2s and then to 3s. To take each of the weapons from Sacred 1 to Sacred 2 requires the original item, the Sacred 1 item, along with 10 polished stones and 5 refined stones. And then to take them from Sacred 2 to Sacred 3 requires different mats depending on which weapon type they are. The top 4 weapons, sword, spear, dagger, and axe, all require 10 refinement stones and 5 strengthened stones, whereas the 4 bottom weapons, bow, staff, book, and fan, all require 10 refinement stones and 5 soft stones. And then, as we just talked about, to go from 3 to 4, you will need your Sacred 3 weapon and a Battle Tested weapon of the same type, and you can combine those to make a Sacred 4. Meaning that in total, you will need 10 Polished Stones, 15 Refined Stones, and then either 5 Strengthen or 5 Soften to complete your weapon from 1 to 3, and then a Battle Tested weapon to complete it up to 4. But because the mobs that drop these stones only happen to spawn every 10 or 20 hours, depending on which one it is, this means that we can only realistically make one level 3 sacred weapon / level 4, if we have a B2 weapon to go with it, every single day. This means that every single day you should have a weapon in mind that you are trying to upgrade to a 3/4, and this means that you should reset your elite mob kills before collecting their loot to make sure that you get the stones necessary for that day's weapon. To show you what I mean, I'm going to show you my attempt today at making a Sacred 3 sword. Alright, so our first elite that is on a 10-hour respawn timer, meaning that you can get him twice a day, is Mighty Test Subject Brigand. He is found in the far left of the upper part of the dungeon, and he is weak to sword, dagger, fan, wind, and light, meaning that your Odette, your Millard, all that kind of good stuff is going to come through clutch, nuking this guy in 1 to 2 turns. Now, the Elite Brigand can drop either Polished Stones or Refined Stones, and I personally want to get Polished Stones out of both of my fights daily from this guy to get my daily 10 needed. If he had given me Refined Stones, you could see that I already had my tablet menu pulled up, and I could have quick closed my game before exiting the battle, because exiting the battle is when your game saves. Our next 10-hour cycle elite mob is the Mighty Test Subject Bandit. He is weak to spear, bow, fan, lightning, and light, meaning that again, Odette will fuck his day up. Now, as far as I know, this mob only has the chance to drop Refined Stones. However, it can be anywhere from 5 to 8, from what I've been told. Meaning that it's not super necessary to reset this boss, but if you do want to shoot for the 8 every single time, then you can. If not, close your game just like you see I am attempting to do here, and then I realize I did get the good roll. Now, just to put emphasis on it, to be able to make a weapon every single day, you need to hit these 10-hour cycles twice a day. Doesn't matter when in the day you hit them, as long as you get them twice a day. I go for the morning and for the night. Makes it super easy, super simple for me, but whatever works for you. Getting a weapon a day isn't worth fucking up your sleep schedule or your work schedule if that's what it would interfere with. Next, we have our 20-hour cycle bosses, meaning you can only do them once per day. First one is Menacing Test Subject Beast, and he is only weak to dagger, fan, and wind, meaning that I swap my Odette over to wind for this boss and I let her rip. Now, this is the first boss that can start dropping softened stones, but he also has a chance to drop the lower tier mats, like polish and refined stones as well. But in this clip, I end up not resetting and taking the polished stones just because I realized that I need them for completing the sword in this video. Normally, I would have reset, gotten my softened stones, and then come back later tonight to receive my polished stones that I need to finish off the sword for today. And then we have our final Sacred Elite mob, and that is the Menacing Test Subject Giant Beast. Again, this is a 20-hour respawn timer, meaning you will only kill him once a day. He is weak to Axe, Tome, and Fire. Let's switch over my Viola to be a fire attacker. And this is definitely the one that hits the hardest and takes the longest, so I recommend bringing a tank or bringing lots of heals, all that good stuff. Now, this boss, as far as I'm aware, can only drop strength or softened stones. So, since we are going for sword today, we are looking for strength. I'm gonna hover that little that little thing over and over again, waiting for it to pop up, just so I can close out with no problem. And we do get our strength stones that we need, so we are good to go. If I was working on a bottom 4 weapon, in bow, a staff, a tome, or a fan, I would have wanted the softens, but since I am working on a sword, a axe, a dagger, or a spear, we are going for the strength. And so we just head back specifically to the blacksmith at the cathedral. He is the only one that can upgrade sacred weapons. We're going to upgrade our sacred sword since we got our 10 polishes, and we already had our refined stones, luckily, from last night's second rounds. And that is going to give us our first Sacred Sword 3 available upgrade. And since we have our strength stones and again our refinement stones, we can go ahead and craft that immediately. Unfortunately, I did not save expert hunt tickets to be able to immediately unlock all of the new battle tested NPCs, so I will finish this up to a 4 tomorrow when I have the sword area unlocked. Speaking of which, a lot of people are wondering how to unlock the new BT NPCs so that you can fight them. The first step is you need to have done the normal hunt in each of the 4 ladder cities. You will then unlock a side quest in each of those cities to gain 5 medals from townspeople, which will unlock the expert hunt for that area. You then need to complete the expert hunt for the latter 4 cities. You can see I don't have the last one done, which is where sword is. But once you've completed the expert hunt in these 4 cities, the new BT NPCs will be battleable, and you will be able to farm them off of them. If you're interested in getting help on finding where the BTs are, what they're weak to, and comps to help combat them, there is a link to Shizukat's COTC Discord in the description and in the comment, and go join there. Full of end game grinders that play daily, talk about the game daily. There's an FAQ section and a whole guide section about every single BT and all that. So if that sounds like something you would enjoy, please join us in there. And until next time, this has been Dream. Much love, stay cute, booyah.